Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to making a new podcast video. So let's begin. The Mountain and the Star, a bedtime story of courage. Once upon a time, in a small village, nestled between towering mountains, there lived a boy named Loka. From a young age, Loka would gaze at the tallest peak, Mount Evermore, the grandest and most dangerous mountain in the land. But what captivated Loka wasn't the mountain itself. It was the single, bright star that always seemed to hover just above its summit every night. The villagers called it the Star of Hope. Legend said that anyone who reached the top of Mount Evermore would be granted a wish by the star. Many had tried to reach it, but none had ever returned. Some said the mountain was cursed, that it could hear your fears and would create obstacles from them to block your path. Despite the warnings and stories of failure, Loka had a dream. Not just any dream, but the kind that lives deep in your heart. The kind that won't let you rest until you follow it. He wanted to climb Mount Evermore and meet the Star of Hope. Not for any grand wish or treasure, but to prove to himself that he could conquer his fears. As he grew older, his desire burned stronger. The night before his journey, Loka's father gave him a small, worn-out book. "This belonged to your grandfather," he said. "He tried to climb the mountain once, but he never made it to the top. Let his story guide you." Loka opened the book and found these words: "The mountain is not just stone, it's the reflection of every doubt, every fear. You don't conquer the mountain, you conquer yourself." The next morning, Loka set off on his journey. The village gathered to see him go, many whispering that he would never return. But Loka's heart was steady, filled with the hope and determination that had been growing inside him for years. The climb was harder than Loka had imagined. On the first day, the air was cold and sharp, cutting through his clothes. But Loka pressed on, remembering his grandfather's words. He told himself that the cold was just a taste, that it was a reflection of his fears of discomfort, of the unknown. On the second day, thick clouds gathered. On the second day, thick clouds gathered, and the wind howled like a wild beast. The path became unclear. And every step forward felt like walking into darkness. But again Luca reminded himself the mountain was a reflection his inner fears. His fear of losing direction, of not knowing what lay ahead. He pressed on, trusting himself, believing that the path would reveal itself if he just kept moving. On the third day, Luca faced the most difficult challenge yet, as he reached a narrow ledge. He looked down and saw the vast expanse below. His heart pounded in his chest. The fear of falling gripped him, paralyzing his legs. But in that moment, he remembered his grandfather's words again. You don't conquer the mountain and conquer yourself. It wasn't the height that was frightening him. It was the fear of falling, of not making it. Luca took a deep breath, looked up at the star, and whispered to himself, I am not afraid of failing. I will take this one step at a time. And with that he placed one foot in front of the other, slowly but surely making his way across the ledge. Finally, after days of climbing, Luca reached the summit, exhausted but filled with a deep sense of peace. He looked up at the star of hope, shining brightly above him. He expected the star to speak, to ask him for his wish. But instead, there was only silence, and then Luca understood. The wish wasn't about receiving something external. The journey itself was the wish. The star had been guiding him all along, but not to grant him a material prize. It had helped him see that he already had everything he needed within himself: courage, resilience, faith in his own strength. These were the real rewards. As Luca stood there at the top of Mount Evermore, he realized that the mountain had not defeated those who came before him. I had simply shown them their own fears, and whether they turned back or continued was entirely up to them. Luca didn't climb the mountain to conquer it. He climbed to find himself. With the thought, Luca smiled. He didn't need to ask the star for a wish, because the wish had already come true. He had found the strength that had always been inside him, waiting for the moment he closed to believe in it. That night, as he made his way down the mountain, Luca knew that no challenge, no fear could ever stand in his way again. With the thought, Luca smiled. He didn't need to ask the star for a wish, because the wish had already come true. He had found the strength that had always been inside him, waiting for the moment he chose to believe in it. The night as he made his way down the mountain, Luca knew that no challenge, no fear could ever stand in his way again, because he had learned that life, like that moment, only reflects what we carry inside. And when you face your fears, when you believed in yourself, the summit is too high, As Luca finally reached the face of the mountain, the village saw him returning, but something was different. He wasn't just a boy anymore. He was someone who had faced the impossible and found the strength to keep going. And as he looked back at Mount Evermore, his star of hope shining brighter than ever, Luca whispered softly, "Thank you so much. See you with you next one."